So at some point in your road cycling journey, you are going to be confronted with a hill. It could be a little hill, it could be a big hill, but generally speaking, cyclists tend to be a little bit afraid of them. However, hills can be extremely rewarding, and I personally love climbing hills. My name's Emma, I'm a professional triathlete, and in this video, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to climb better and enjoy the hills. So to best get to grips with cycling training, the initial thing to do is to understand the different heart rate zones. And these are based on your maximum heart rate. So to determine your maximum heart rate, you can either use the well-known formula, which is 220 minus your age. This is going to give you a very rough idea. If you want to be more specific, you can head to a lab with a professional for an effort test, or you can quite easily do it at home. All you're going to need for this is a heart rate monitor. You can either do it on a turbo trainer or on a fixed bike in the gym, or you can head out to the local hill with your road bike. So after a decent warm-up, set yourself up to do a progressive effort. So start at an easy pace, and every 30 seconds or a minute, you gradually increase the effort until you can't increase it anymore. That will be your maximum exertion, and the heart rate you measure at that time will be a very good indication of your maximum heart rate when you're cycling. So now you've worked out what your maximum heart rate is, this is going to allow you to structure your training a little. And when you're training, you can basically divide your effort into 5 different zones. So the very first training zone is the warm-up zone. This is approximately 50 to 60% of your maximum heart rate, and it's a very easy effort. You can talk with people you're training with, you feel almost no physical exertion, and this is the zone you're going to be working in right at the beginning of your training sessions, and probably when you're cooling down right at the end as well. The second training zone is your basic endurance zone. It's approximately 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate, and it remains an easy effort. Now, don't mistake easy for ineffective, because this is one of the most important training zones that you are going to use when you are increasing your endurance capacity. So you should still be able to talk. This is easy conversation with people around you, but you're starting to feel your muscles warming up, you might be sweating a little, and you're working harder than in zone 1, which was purely for warm-up purposes. In zone 3, which will be 70 to 80% of your maximum heart rate, you are starting to work really hard. It's more of a tempo zone. So you've moved out of the baseline endurance and you're starting to work really hard. At this point, you probably won't be able to talk anymore. It's an extensive effort, but it's not max. As you progress into zone 4, which is approximately 80 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. So this means you're moving from an aerobic effort, where your muscles have sufficient oxygen to work, to an anaerobic effort, meaning that they're working too hard to recycle the oxygen and they're producing lactic acid instead. That is the burning sensation you feel in your muscles when you're working really hard. So a threshold effort is very intensive. You won't be talking, your muscles will be burning, and it's an effort that you won't be able to hold for much more than 20 to 30 minutes. So beyond threshold, we have zone 5, which is an anaerobic effort. It's beyond 90% of your maximum heart rate, which means you're working almost at maximum effort, and it's an effort you won't be able to hold for more than a few minutes at a time. Now, all these training zones have their importance when you're training, and working in different zones will allow you to work on different aspects of your aerobic capacity, be that endurance or your power if you're working at higher ends of the spectrum. Now, if there was one zone to choose to work in for most of your training, it would absolutely be zone 2. That is the most fundamental training zone that you need to focus on, because that's the one that's going to allow you to build all your base endurance. And anything over the top of that is a bonus, especially when you're cycling. You should be aiming to base maybe about 80% of your training in zone 2 and 20% in higher training zones. So your zone 2 training is going to be taken care of most of the times when you ride. When you go out with friends, you're usually going to be in zone 2. So for those 20% of sessions where you're working at the upper end of the spectrum, you want to be doing interval training. So what is interval training? It's basically a shorter duration at a harder effort followed by some rest, and then you go again. So if you're working at threshold, for example, these intervals might look like between 6 and 8 minutes effort with 4 to 5 minutes rest, for example. Or if you're working on a hill, you can ride up the hill for 6, 7, 8 minutes, up to 10 maybe, turn around at the top, go back down and start again. And you do maybe 3 or 4 of those depending on your fitness and the time you have. If you're working at higher intensities, you're obviously going to be able to sustain that effort for less long, and the intervals are going to be shorter. It could be anything from 15, 30 seconds, maybe up to 2 minutes, but no more. So a classic session to develop power, for example, is to go 30 seconds hard, 30 seconds easy, and repeat that maybe 6 times through, followed by a break, and then you start again. And you can maybe do 3 or 4 blocks of that. So these are just examples to help you structure your training. Always remember the bulk of your training must be done in zone 2, because that is the most effective to help develop your base endurance. And then you have lots and lots of options to go and work on the higher end of the scale with interval training. So beyond the physical training, there are lots of things you can do to make riding up a hill a lot easier, both physically and mentally. So first, especially if it's a long hill, don't start too hard. Make sure that you're in one of the easier training zones, zone 2, zone 3, and that you can still talk. That will allow you to manage your effort all the way to the top. Secondly, use your gearing. You have easier gears on your bike. You don't have to grind up the hill. So make sure that you can play around with that a little and figure out the best gear to be in depending on the slope you're riding up. On some climbs, you may even have distance markers each kilometer, so you can ride between them. And first and foremost, you're riding up a hill, so you probably have great views. So don't forget to look around you and appreciate where you are. Physically, focus on your pedal stroke. Make sure that you're pushing all the way around the 360 degrees of the pedal. You can also stand up a little, potentially to relieve any tension in your lower back, or to add a little bit more power using your body weight to get up a steeper section if you need. Most importantly, stay relaxed and enjoy the ride. It can be tough, but it's extremely rewarding. You'll have a great view at the top and you'll feel that sense of achievement for having made it. I hope this advice has been useful to you. If you need any more information, don't hesitate to check out the Decathlon advice webpage or some of the other YouTube videos. I'll see you in the next one, and in the meantime, enjoy the ride and enjoy the hill.